Y las malos en venida, y las tigres, y las figues que gimen.
Hey there, welcome back. Yeah, hey, let me music a little bit. The music's a little bit loud, I think. Which I think, yeah, that's a little bit better. Um, Let me know if the audio levels aren't okay. But I think those they look okay from my end, so that's good. Let's see. Hey, thanks. Welcome back. If this is your first time here, welcome. So on Sundays we run a little live stream where we're doing a solo play Dungeons and Dragons thing with Lia, who's our main character. We've got some sidekicks along. Uh, Her primary goal, her primary mission has been to find out a sort of mysterious death that's centered around sort of her previous research she's done as a disgraced academic, and some of the questions around that. In the last episode, she was with Gimble, a halfling slaver, and who had hired her for her expertise in elementals, and they were on a race with two other groups to find a water myrmidon, which is a sort of living water elemental with armor on and weapons. And they were trying to get there first and try to capture it. The fight did not go as planned. They were the first ones to get there, but the fight didn't go as planned, and they ended up having to kill it rather than capture it, which was their sort of intent. Gibble still paid her all the same. You know, she risked life and limb nearly, and got killed in that encounter. And that's, I guess, technically the third encounter they've had with the water myrmidon. But now it is gone and done. And now we can probably get back to the main story. Unfortunately, killing the water elemental and being hired by Gimble has put a bit of a sour taste in the whole affair, because the whole reason that she came to the place that she is, where we started our adventure, was to talk to Omer, which was another one of her sort of fellow researchers that she knew when she was an academic, and was also one of the people that was knowledgeable about elementals. And so she's trying to get Omer's insight on this mysterious death, and maybe if Omer knows anything more about it. Just haven't had a chance to. She's gotten wrapped up in this water myrmidon thing. Now, unfortunately, is that Omer wanted to sort of tag and release the water elemental so he could do further research on it. And Leah kind of went around the way, kind of did a roundabout, and actually took a job from somebody else to capture the water elemental. So Omer's probably not going to be happy about that, especially now since they ended up actually accidentally killing it rather than actually capturing it. Um, so that's going to be an interesting conversation that they're going to have. But to do that, they're going to have to get back to Split Valley Oasis, which is kind of the major thrust of today's session. if that may sound like a lot's gone on, I promise it's not that much. But if you do want to catch up, all the previous sessions are over on YouTube. You can see sort of the links down below at Red Ragged Fiend, or you can get the links from the channel description in Twitch. You can go check those out. There's a few hours there if you want the full story. But that's really everything you need to know to jump into here. So just kind of finishing up. I'm finishing up a little bit of prep and seeing if we get any extra sort of stragglers in. Hopefully you guys are having a good day. How's it going for you? It's been a nice sort of lazy Sunday for me, which is kind of nice. I found that doing the stream and is a good way to something to look forward to on Sunday, so you're not having sort of that Monday dread about going back to work. It's something to look forward to. It's been a lot of fun so far, and I really enjoy it. And hopefully we'll keep going, and hopefully Lia survives. And now she is officially first level, which is good. She is fully first level. She's got a little gold in her pocket that she can use to do some things. Let's see, is there anything else that we sort of need to talk to? I think we've got everything up and we're ready to go. So the main thing that we're looking for as far as sort of channel goals right now is we're going for a follower goal. We're trying to get up to 20 followers. We're about, I think we've got 14 followers, 15 followers, something like that. So we're getting there, slowly but surely. It would be probably easier to do if I streamed more, but unfortunately, this is just sort of what my schedule permits. Usually, there are some times where I do impromptu streams during the week. So if you're interested in that, the best way to find out when I'm going to do that, because they're not really scheduled, is to obviously follow on Twitch. That's the easiest way to do it, and then you'll get the notifications for it. You can also follow me on Twitter, same thing. Got the @ down below. I try to always make a post to let people know when I'm going live, but I forget. I'm human. Let's say if you're interested in some of the other stuff, if you want, whether that's D&D in general or specifically solo D&D or other tabletop RPGs, you can visit the website redraggedfiend.com. I've been doing content creation, talking about D&D and other tabletop role-playing games for a little over a decade. So while I'm new to streaming, I'm not new to content generation or new to tabletop games necessarily. But I'm very happy to talk and play with new people that are kind of introducing themselves to the hobby or trying to get introduced to the hobby, because they come at it with such a different angle. For me and some of the more veteran players and dungeon masters and things like that, that more experienced groups that I play with, right? We're all very very much focused on sort of the mechanics and how things work and optimization and things like that, and the sort of the meta layer that sits on top of the game. And you don't have that with new players, which I find really refreshing. They think in more sort of narrative terms, which is always really nice, and I really enjoy that. So I like to have a mix when I'm playing in a group with some older people who can help, especially newer people, or I should say more experienced players help newer players, not necessarily old, to make sure that they're doing things correctly and they kind of get their legs under them as far as the game's concerned, but but really lean on those new players to kind of have the sort of wonder and the surprise and all that good stuff that we've enjoyed as veterans of the gaming industry. Right, there's a lot of firsts, and it's always nice to see that and be able to experience that again vicariously through somebody else and have fun like that, which I'm getting to do in another one of my games. And usually I have that game on Thursdays, but we're going to move it in this upcoming week. So I may stream on Wednesday or Thursday. I'm not sure yet. I'll have to see how things go. I'll have to decide on what I want to stream too. I may do some more. I've got my DM's binder. It's actually a folder. We may look at that a little bit more. I have some of these. I have most of this stuff digitized, so we could look at some of that and sort of talk about why I created and why I put in what things I did and why I left out other things. Those are always really interesting conversations to have with people, and to get other people's, because one thing I found out when I was sort of like researching and putting together my DM's binder is that people are sort of all over the place when it comes to what they put in it. A lot of people, everybody wants something They need different aids and helpful reminders about stuff. And as I was researching and trying to think of, okay, what do other people put in their DM's binders, looking through old stuff, and then I realized that my binder doesn't look anything like basically anybody else's, right? Because it's a very personal thing. But that's always a good thing to run through, and then at least hopefully if you tune in and you watch that, you'll have the same experience I did watching other people's stuff and going through other people's blog posts and things like that. Is that we can look at somebody else's stuff and be like, yes, I like that. I would want to include something exactly that or something very similar to that, or be like, that doesn't serve a need for me, so that's not something I would need to reference very often or at all. So that's not a particularly useful thing to have as sort of a at your hip gaming aid as far as running D&D or another tabletop RPG. But that's really that's everything. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, I don't think we have anything else to talk about. I think we got all that good stuff out of the way, so I think we can just kind of go into the game itself. So one of the things that I did do is that if you watch some of the previous episodes or you've been watching the streams, you'll know that I've been doing sort of a mixture of on-screen stuff as well as by hand stuff, like the dice rolling and looking up some resources. I've been going slowly through a process of getting most of that digital, so that way you guys can see the same things I'm saying. And I've done most of that. Here, let me actually switch this over. Let me go back over to full screen. There we go. So I did a little bit of work to kind of put everything together. So other than some helpful guides that I have over here, like I said, I have the DM's binder. I have a revised Oracle page, which is really nice. I worked on that a little bit last week to use because I don't, and I talked about this in previous streams, I don't super love the Oracle system that I was using. So I got something different. I've got some order of operations notes for the hex crawling portion and some changes I've made based off of our last session and some other play, as well as some other helpful stuff. Like we're not playing Pathfinder, but this is sort of the game mastery guide from the first edition of Pathfinder, and it's just a really solid game master, dungeon master book, regardless of whatever system you're playing, whether that's sci-fi or D&D or whatever it is. It just has sort of basically good advice. If we scratch out the stat blocks and use different stat blocks and different sort of mechanics as far as sort of like DCs and things like that. But most of the stuff that's in here is really good, just basic grounding and ideas and roll tables for game masters of any system. So it's a very useful product, as is this is certainly the book I use the most. That's Xanathar's Guide to Everything. It's definitely the D&D 5e book that I reference the most. For mainly its roll tables and a lot of the appendices and things like that. I like the This Is Your Life section and coming up with new backgrounds and features and history for the characters and all that good stuff. So that's a really good one. So those are basically the non-digital things that I'm going to be using this session. So hopefully I've gotten everything together and we should be able to do everything that we need to do, and you'll be able to see the exact same stuff that I see. So instead of rolling dice off to the side, we'll have our nice little dice roller here. This is just straight up, and this is just a Google widget that you can do in Google. I use it all the time when I'm working on usually writing stuff or trying to test stuff where I don't want to, carve out space at my desk for my rolling tray and all my dice. Or if I just need to roll something really quickly and figure something out. Super useful. And yeah, that's it. All right. So where were we last time? We talked about that. So we've got all our information here. So yeah, it's Spring Mother 13. That's where we left off. They had just spent Gimble, his crew, and Lia had just spent the night over at what's that guy's name? Starts with a D, right? Dren, yes, the half-orc baronet who owns the keep. So we do that. So that's basically where we're going to be picking up, and we'll just show the map real quick, just so you guys can see it. Ooh, let me move this. Can you guys see that? Oh, nope, my fat head's blocking the way. So that may be an issue we run into. So I'm going to actually put this over here and flip those backwards so you can see them. So yeah, on the left side there, you can see we have Dren's Keep right there, and just do a little highlight for you so you guys can see it. So that's where we are right now. And Gimble, the slaver, who is also a noble, kind of used his station to force Dren to basically give them room and board for the night. So Lia has rested. She has gotten all her hit points back. In sort of the space of time that she had, sort of the evening time, she did complete a ritual cast. And she now officially has her familiar. Which I went with I'm just gonna flavor the familiar, because the familiars in 5e are very sort of specific about what you could choose from, unless you're a specific type. But I'm gonna basically flavor it as a method, which is, we've fought a few of those now, and they have. Do I have one in here? We've got one in here. We can look at it real quick. There you go. So these little guys. So kind of these long-nosed, elemental, scraggly-looking demon things. So that's what we're going to basically flavor her familiar as, based off of that her expertise has been in elemental and primordial research. And these are sort of the closest to analog as far as a very low-level monster. But obviously it's not going to have these stats, because these are CR 1/4, and that is certainly too high for a familiar. Because I think they have to be either 0 or 1/8. I know they can't be 1/4. But yeah, so that's where we are. So now we're sort of waking up in the morning. Of course, Dren has sort of forced to kind of put out a spread for Gimble and his 24 people. I think we talked about Dren not being particularly happy about that. He's a pretty low level lord, so then having to suddenly make accommodations for 24, 25, 26 people, it's a real pain in the butt, and he's not super happy about it. But it is sort of his station. It's what he has to do, basically, as a lord, is to basically uphold the right of hospitality. So I think that's where we pick up with Lia kind of comes down, and they have sort of a breakfast, which I'm going to guess is very, very meager, right? I mean, Dren's not a particularly wealthy person, so they probably have some oats or gruel kind of thing, and they probably have some bread and some hard cheeses, and they might have a little fresh veg or fruit to go with it, maybe some cream to go with it. But it's certainly not a huge spread. It might have some eggs, maybe some leftovers from the night before, maybe some. They probably slaughtered a pig or something, so they might have some extra meat from the previous meal that you can kind of warm up and have. They might have a sort of next day sort of stew as well. So kind of a hearty but very simple kind of breakfast, which I think is what we're looking for. And Lia kind of sits down and sort of eating this food, and they're happy for this. I mean, this is only the second warm meal they've had in kind of days, so because they've been on the road, kind of searching high and low, trying to find this stupid water elemental that was gone crazy. And Lia kind of sits down with Gimble, and again, sort of she kind of apologizes that they weren't able to capture the creature, and Gimble's already paid her, so Gimble paid her at the end of the last session, right? And was basically going to kind of leave her here because they're going to have to go get the boats and stuff. But I think we kind of determined that Lia was not going to be like, hey, you don't just like abandon me in the middle of nowhere. Like, I'll travel back with you. Like, I don't know this guy. I don't really know where I am. So I need to get back to Split Valley Oasis. So you can't just pay me off and dump me here. And I'm going to guess that she probably does not have her familiar with her at this point. But she apologizes. Gimble kind of voices that he's frustrated that they really wanted that to be able to capture it, but it was a strong opponent, and it wasn't going to be worth the loss of life first to capture it and then to like keep it contained, traveling all the way back to Split Valley Oasis and then onto wherever they would take it for the games, which we don't know, which is probably going to be one of the nearest cities, which we still haven't figured out where that is. We don't really know where the nearest city is at this point. So the biggest sort of settlement that we have right now is Split Valley Oasis, which has the big trading post and has I keep saying this guy's name wrong, so I'm going to go look it up real quick. Akari, not Azaki, Akari. But yeah, so they sort of have this conversation. There's not a lot of minced. There's no sort of like love lost there. Like, he understands the situation. He's somebody who deals in, particularly in capturing animals and humanoids and people, and traveling them from place to place and reselling them for different uses. So I think he very much seems. Well, actually, I mean, I shouldn't assume that. We should make an oracle roll using our new oracle table. So let's do that. Let's not assume, right? But we think it's likely. So I'm going to give him. I think that's pretty likely. I'm going to give him +5 to this roll. Or I guess I should say, I'm going to give it a -5 because I think the yes/no question I'm going to ask is Gimble upset about losing the water elemental, or does more specifically, does he blame Lia? All right. Well, 13 - 5 is 8, which is very certainly a no, as far as we're concerned. In the 2 to 8 range is no. So no, he's not upset about it. He kind of understands. It kind of comes with the territory. He'd like to have it, but I mean, he knew it was going to be dangerous. That's why he brought like 24 people with him to do this. So yeah, he's not really upset about it. I guess the question is does he have anything else for Lia to do? I don't think so. But let's roll another oracle check. I'll give him a -3 on this because I don't think so. Yeah. So that's firmly in our no. No, he doesn't really have any work. But he's happy with her because we'd already discussed it. He's happy with her sort of tagging along. But they may leave Lia behind because her constitution's not super great. So if they're traveling with her, they may leave her behind because they're more sort of rugged traveler types than she is. She's, again, hasn't really been on the road all that much, especially lately, ever since the last time she kind of was a hireling for adventurers. So, yeah, they have that situation. Let me check my notes. Let's see if there's anything else we need to do before we jump over to the... Yeah, she's 100% first level. We talked about that. Okay, yeah, she's going to return with Gimble and crew and return to Split Valley Oasis. And now we need to figure out, in that journey back, will they encounter either Ott or Elmer, which were, our NPCs with the 2 other groups that were also chasing this water elemental. So yeah, I think if we come across sort of If we come across an encounter, I think on the way back, I think we'll roll to see whether that is or is not either Otts and her compatriots or Omer and his compatriots. So yeah, let's hop over to the map and then let's start working our way back. First, we got to go get the boats because we left the boats up here on the river. So we've got we've got Gimble and Co's boats, which is only one thing away, so that's not too bad. All right, perfect, no problems. So let's head that way. Let's go back to you know what? Let me get this get our text box down here at the bottom and see if there's anything. Okay. Do we have any? Oh right, let's get the thing. All right. Yeah, so they're gonna head out from Dren's in the morning, and they are gonna head northwest back to the river to see if they can, so they can grab their boats, and then they'll take their boats all the way back to the Split Valley. So that way they can take the river and then across the lake. All right. So the first thing we need to do is we need to make a. So we're gonna move into this square. The first thing we need to do is make our D12 roll to see if we come across anything. All right. It only happens on a 1 or a 12, so no, that didn't come across anything. We already know there's a point of interest in there, so we don't need to roll for that. We've already discovered that. There's a sign that points in the wrong direction to Dren's keep. It points to the east, but his keep's actually to the southeast. And it only takes 2 because we dropped it down from. So we were using a D6 to kind of track fatigue as we move around, but that was filling stuff up pretty quickly, and it made it kind of hard to sort of get through a bunch of hexes because each of the hexes kind of represents about an hour of travel. About that, so it's somewhere between 2 to 3 miles, if you're wondering. And I just do that because I find that's easier to track it that way rather than trying to adjust speed for the terrain. So we rolled a 2, so 2 of 12, and then we're just using her basic Constitution save. What would be her passive? So 10 plus her Constitution save, which is she has +2 in Con. She's not trained in it, so it's a 12. But on average, she should be able to get through 4 or 5 hexes probably, or operations, which is much closer to what we want. Let's hop back over here. I'm gonna move these. All right, so we got there. So let's ask the Oracle. They did hide the boats. We did talk about that. So let's just give us an. All right, first let's give a perception check to see if they can find the boats. So we're going to use her making the perception check, which she's not super great at because she has a -1 wisdom, but she is trained in it, so she gets a +1 to the roll to see if they can spot it. I'm going to give her advantage because she has a whole bunch of people that work with her. All right, well, 8 + 1 is 9. Let's set the DC. I do a little 3d6 DC. No, unfortunately, that DC is 11. Ugh. All right. So they get to where they think they left the boats, and then they're like, "I'm not seeing any boats." All right. So now we need to ask the question, or they're not. So they failed the DC, so they're not sure if they're in the right spot for the boats. That's kind of the idea. So they're gonna have to spend another extra turn here, kind of running up and down the riverbanks, kind of spreading out with all their people to try to find them. And so they're going to go ahead and use that extra turn. Ugh, and it's going to take a lot out of them. So they do this for a while. Obviously, they're not super great at remembering where they left the boat, so that's half a per con already for the day. Ugh, that's not great. And it's still certainly in the morning. So they're looking around, and so I think this is going to be an oracle roll to be like, do they find it? Now, they did hide the things. So I'm going to give them +3 to the roll to see if the boats are still there. Like, are the boats physically there for them to find? All right, that's an 8. So 8 with our new handy dandy GM Oracle is still no. So the boats are gone. So they find some tracks there, and they find some deep sort of cuts into the sidebar of the river, where they say like some scrapes where clearly people have pushed their longboats back into the water and taken them. All right, well, already off on another misadventure with Leah. We are going to get to that main plot eventually, but somebody, it seems like, has taken the boats. Who? We don't know. So I guess the first thing we're going to do, and I'm going to count this all sort of the same scene because we used a lot of we're using a lot of her sort of constitution resources here. So I think we're going to make a check to see if we can determine there's any sort of tracks or anything that they've left behind that kind of tells them maybe which way they've gone with the boat. Are they going back towards Split Valley Oasis? Are they going back towards the lake? Or are they heading, I think technically this is downriver, continuing somewhere else. All right. So yeah, let's do a search. So I think this is gonna be an investigation, which she is good at, and she's gonna have advantage on this. But she has a +3 intelligence, and she has a +2 because she's trained in it, so she gets a +5 to the roll. So hopefully they should find this. I say that, but wow, rolling low, and one of the reasons sometimes I do not love the little Google dice roller, or really any automated dice roller. The RNG just does not seem to be very R. But that's a 10. So when we hit a 10 or 11, that's an interrupted scene, which means that something's going to jump in here and interrupt them as they're looking around for these tracks. And that is so it's going to be, let's roll D20. All right, 15. News, report, or rumor. Interesting. Let's get another roll. And an 8. Find or seek. Interesting. So they get some sort of maybe a rumor of somebody seeking something. I'm going to roll another d20. I may throw this away because I kind of have an idea, but I'm not sure. I want to see if this is going to give me something better. Location extraordinary. We don't really have a location extraordinary anywhere that kind of jumps up. I mean, we've got this meeting place over here on the right, which could be something. It could be the hazard. But why would they take the boats if they were going to the hazard? Because they got to go around a mountain. So that's one of the reasons they left the boats to begin with. And I don't think the meeting place makes sense. So I think I'm going to go with sort of the original idea. That I think they come across maybe a fisherman or somebody who's just working the fields or another traveler or something like that. And they ask this person, have you seen, 4 boats or whatever, however many boats they have, 4 or 5 boats probably, headed in a direction. And this person's like, yeah, they were searching for, and I mean, the most likely thing is that it's probably one of the other groups, and they were searching for the water myrmidon. So I think that's the case. Let's just ask. Let's just roll a 1d20. If I roll low, they're going left, which means they're going to head back towards the oasis. If I roll high, they're headed right. Right. Well, they rolled right, so they're heading what is technically downstream. Uh-oh, our music cut out. Let me get that sorted real quick. Oop. There we go. All right, there we go. Perfect. Yeah, let me know if the audio is off or anything. If I need to bump up my voice or turn down the background music, let me know. So yeah, we're gonna head off apparently down the river keep following this river. So we're going to chase this thing and see if we come across whoever we're looking for. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to move into this next hex. We need to determine on this hex, and we can go here, what exactly this hex is. Let's go down here. Oh, actually, we don't need to do that. Because this is either going to be, because we can look at our, look down here. So this is either going to be sort of scrub or a forest. All right, so it's either scrub or forest. Let's roll d6. If I roll low, it'll be scrub, or it'll be forest. Okay, so it's forest. Cool. All right, so let me just add this in real quick so we can see that. Up, up, up. Then I need to change the color of that to this. Okay, perfect. All right, so they head into this hex. Let's see if they come across anything. And let's see how much this takes out of them, because they're basically walking down the river at this point. So it's only going to take 2 out of them, but they don't come across anything. And the question is, they have no idea where the people who took these boats are headed. And that's a problem, because that kind of means that they need to stop and search every hex that they go through to see if they can find a camp or something else. All right, but that took us 2, so now we're at 8 of 12, so 75% of the day. Before we start taking on exhaustion, which we really don't want. All right, do they search? I guess they search. They're gonna have to search. So they're gonna spend the time to search. Do they find any evidence of the boats or the people who took them? So we're just gonna ask the Oracle. I think it's 50-50. 14. Okay. 14 is yes. All right, so they find something. So they find some evidence. So they found some evidence. So let's just roll again and be like, do they find the boats? No, absolutely not. That's bad. That's no with some sort of complication is going to come out of that. All right, so I rolled an 8, which is lose, gain, or fumble a resource. Since this is a negative one, we're certainly not gaining it. I don't think we're gonna. I don't think they're gonna fumble any resources specifically. So let's see. Do we have any resources that would make sense for them to lose? Not really, other than time. Because Lia doesn't even have a spell that would be useful in this situation, I don't think. Oh, you know what? I'm looking at Lia's sheet right here. Let me. Oh, it's not going to let me zoom. That's okay. I just need to mark off a spell slot because she would have cast Mage Armor in the morning. So she's got 1 spell left, but none of her spells would make sense in this situation. So I think the resource they lose is they're going to come across specifically. So we said specifically we did not find the boats. So I'm going to change that answer a little bit to that. Yes, they did find the boats, and the boats have been sundered. Like these boats are wrecked. Like they come across them sort of on the probably half pulled up onto the shore, and they are wrecked. So these are unsalvageable. So they're like, we lost all these boats. So they're not going to be. Gimble's not going to be happy about that because boats are expensive, and he just lost like 4 or 5 of them, which he probably does not own. He probably rented. And somebody stole them and then fouled them, I guess, because they got out. They probably got to a point here in the because it's sort of a jungle, lightly jungle kind of area. They probably came to sort of like a rapids area, and maybe one of those boats got sundered on the rapids itself, or maybe they just weren't able to, uh, because the rapids, the water was so shallow, they weren't going to be able to take the boats over, and rather than portaging the boats, they were just like, we're just going to foul them and continue on, because they're not our boats to begin with. So I think that's probably fair. But I think we should let Leah do an investigation check to see if, looking at the boats, to tell if they are specifically fouled or not. Like, is this natural? Were these naturally destroyed, or did somebody destroy them? So let's do a d20. Again, she has advantage because she has a ton of people with her that would all be aiding her. She has a +5 to this roll. Yeah, 21 for sure. So she knows that. She knows for sure whether it is or is not. Let's just ask the Oracle real quick. Hi, it is. No. All right. So it looks like they tried to take these canoes or longboats into the rapids, and then it did not work. And so they got dashed on the rocks, and there's just sort of debris over here. So maybe these boats that are now up on the shore, they've just been pushed up on the bank by the current instead. Like, it doesn't look like humans really pulled these out and like fouled them. Are there any tracks that led away? I think that's pretty easy to see. I assume probably so. So yeah. I said assume probably so, but would have said very likely. No, it's been raining, so I'm going to say it's just kind of likely, because they're not going to have the greatest footprints in the world to look at. But that's still 17, which firmly puts us in the yes camp. So yeah, they find some footprints that go away. So the question is, are they booted? Are they people? Well, let's make another roll. All right, so that's 10. So we got another interrupted scene. So yeah, they're looking here. They're looking at these prints. We're trying to determine whether or not they are humanoids, or if they're some sort of monsters or something like that, who are in search. Right, they know they're in search of some sort of extraordinary place, which may or may not have been the shrine with the water myrmidon that they didn't really know of, or it could be somebody else. So let's find out what this scene is real quick. All right, so the group's kind of on the shore. They're looking at this. They're in a lightly wooded area. There's some bunch of rapids that are going by. So 5. All right, it's a faction or group that exists. Interesting. Let's figure out who that is real quick. Sorry, my nose is giving me a real tickle. Let's go down to our groupings and our NPCs. All right, so we've got basically 4. So let's roll 4. A d4. 2. All right, there are the adventurers. All right, it could be Ott. Could also be Imbar. That could be really interesting. We haven't come across Imbar yet, which is somebody that Leah knows from her past when she was a hireling for adventurers. One of those adventurers being Imbar. All right, is it Ott or is it Imbar? If I roll high, it's Ott. Oh, it is Ott. Okay. All right. So the question is that Ott is not alone. We know that Ott is with Norkruth and other slavers, who, to give background for people who haven't seen everything, Gimble, the halfling slaver that Leah's with, originally hired Norkruth, which is another slaver, a lower level slaver, to basically go take care of getting the water myrmidon for him. He basically subcontracted out the work to somebody else that's in his sort of slaver network who was already in the area. Norkruth was never really got around to it. He tried to recruit Leah and Ott when they first got into town. They kind of gave him the brush off. So, and then the things happened and everything happened, and then Leah ended up going with Gimble, and then Ott, after looking at things, ended up kind of getting hired by Norkruth, because remember that Leah and Ott, while they were adventuring together, they're not in a group. They're not like super close friends or anything. Like, they just kind of know each other. and then Lia hired Ott as a guide to bring her to the Oasis, to the trading post. So that's who this other group is. It's Norcruth and Ott, and they definitely have people with them too. I don't think they probably have as many as Gimble does, but it seems like Norcruth. Let's just kind of. I'm gonna roll a 2d6, which is pretty common. Well, actually, that's not what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do an oracle roll. So, so they're looking for tracks, and I think that the other group's gonna be there. They're gonna be like in the woods, and they're gonna come out of the woods at them. Now, the question that we want to know is, are they immediately hostile? Is Norcruth like, nah, we're gonna get these guys, because this guy kind of screwed me over on my job, and then went above me, and then took like the expert that I was trying to hire. So Norcruth is particularly not happy. So are they just going to straight up attack them? I still don't think, because they're going to have surprise, but they're not going to have overwhelming odds. So I think it's still going to be a 50-50 chance. Okay, so no. So yeah, and they're sitting here, they're looking at the boats, they're looking for tracks. They see that the tracks, there are some booted and unbooted, because Ott doesn't wear boots, because she's a gigantic Knoll lady. She's a gigantic hyena. She just has feet. She has paws. So yes, they kind of come out of the woodwork. There's certainly tension in the air, right? That's what we know, is that there's tension. I did actually roll a 9. That is an oracle check. So the answer was no, but there's going to be an edge. So let's figure out the edge real quick. It kind of comes with that scene. 7. Acts against their own best interest. Okay. So that's an edge for us, by the way. So I think Norcruth kind of got caught. He kind of went petty. He kind of destroyed these boats. Stole Gimble's boats. So he probably knew they were Gimble's boats. Stole the boats. Wrecked the boats. And then after they were searching, this forested area looking for the tracks of the Myrmidon or anything else, then have to come back, and Gimble and his crew are there, and Lee is there, and Norcruth has to eat some crow. He he goes against his best interest. That would be in his best interest probably to eat crow, but he's not attacking. So how would he act against his own best interest? His best interest would be to probably try to get back in good, but we know he's not attacking. Wow, I really don't know what that is. So instead, I'm just gonna. So another thing that we did when I revised this GM template is that sometimes when one of those things like the edge or the hindrance doesn't really make sense, or you can't really force it in, we just kind of hand wave and be like, okay, well the next D20 test that Leah's side's going to do, they're going to get advantage on. Because I can't really figure out how he would act against his own best interest in this if he's not going to attack, or at least threaten to attack, which we know he's definitely not doing. Well, no, I guess really the thing is that what he would do is that he would just basically burn bridges, right? So I think Norcruth kind of comes out of the woodwork, and he and Gimble kind of get into a bit of a shouting match. Right, Norcruth's got a lot of pride kind of tied up with this, and Norcruth is, I'm trying to remember, I think he's either Dragonborn or Tiefling, right? Yeah, he's Dragonborn. Okay. So he's loud. So they kind of have a bit of a shouting match. Right, because things are tense. Nott's kind of standing off to the side, probably with her arms kind of crossed, watching it. Her eyes kind of going from, Norcruth and Gimble yelling at each other, and kind of slides over to Lia. Kind of slides back. she's definitely like trying to stay aware of the scene. She's like, oh, okay, the other side has probably like 2 dozen. Let's find out how many people Norcruth has with him. So I said probably less than that. So I'm gonna give him like a 2d10 roll. All right, so only 6 people. So like it would be a suicide trying to fight these guys. They outnumber you 4-1. So they get in a fight, and then Norcruth's like, screw you, Gimble. And then kind of burns bridges, and I think that they stomp off. So I guess the big question for me is, does Ott go with them? Continue with them? I guess the question is does Ott think she's going to get paid? So let's just roll a d20, because I think it's pretty 50-50. Okay, so she does think that she's going to get paid. So Ott kind of gives a last glance to Lia, and then they sort of head off, and then it's sort of the sort of awkward parting, like if you meet a friend for coffee or something like that, and then you're like, oh, this was great. I can't wait to do it again. And then you both start walking in the same direction because they're both going back to Split Valley. So yeah, I think yeah, so they both kind of walk, but they are certainly apart. And I think that Norcruth and his crew are in the front, but they're all going to the same place at this point. So yeah, all right. So we've resolved that. Unfortunately, we lost the boats, which means that we're gonna have to take the long way around. Because, but that's okay. I mean, Norcruth and Ott are gonna have to cross the river at some point because they gotta get to the right side of the oasis. Let me pull them back up. So they're gonna have they have to get back over here to the actual trading post because that's where Norcruth's stuff is. Gimble and company do not. They only gotta go here here because that's where their camp is. Actually, let me put that up here. What's Gimble's camp? That's Gimble's camp. I think that was under the. Put that under secret note. Yeah. Okay, but we didn't have it first. But that's where they're going. But we can't delete Gimble and Co.'s boats. They ain't there no more. We are here. But this, however, is still fog of war up. All right. So we're there. So I think they probably cross the river and kind of, these two groups kind of walk parallel across, kind of glancing back and forth at each other across this river as they head back. Actually, no. Do they take the straight route? You know what? I'm gonna make that an oracle roll. Does Norcruth and Co break off and go just try to as the crow flies and tries to just go straight, or are they going to follow the river back and then follow the shoreline? So the question will be, are they going to just go straight? No. All right. So they're both following the rivers. No big deal. So we're going to move back into our previous hex. You come across anything? Nope. Luckily, it only takes one, which is good because that's what we need. We need to make up a little bit of time here as we move back to where we were, and then we'll just we'll move across. We don't have to take the boat through sort of like the foothills sort of region where there's probably a tributary that meets in. So they're just gonna, well, they would. No, they'd cross the river. I'm sure there's. Oh, we didn't say there's a crossing. There's not a crossing. So yeah, they're gonna have to go down into the mountainous region, which I don't think there's PWYW, right? No, we know for certain there's not a point of interest there. All right, so they head sort of into this foothills region around that. They've come across anything, and I know this is maybe a little bit tedious, but I do enjoy just sort of doing the hex crawling, especially when we're really focusing on this local level and we're doing like day by day traveling to see if anything sort of pops up that could attack them on the way back. I mean, it could be quippers again. We keep running into quippers with the water tiles, but nothing here. Luckily, we rolled another one, so we're making good time. So the group's making good time. They don't come across anything. They're going to move up here. So probably as they're getting into sort of that mountainous region, they probably see that the parties kind of lose vision of each other as they kind of move up and down and through the hills and go through the curves of the river as it kind of cuts through that landscape. At the but if one of them got attacked, we wouldn't necessarily know about it. So we're going to make it into this square, hex. I'm going to say square a lot, but I mean hex. Uh-oh. That's a 1. That means there's an encounter. And 4, which means that that's gonna be the day for them. All right. So that's what I didn't open. There we go. Good cool bub. All right. So we only got one player. We're technically in the grasslands. So let's get a filter up. So where are we at? We're sort of we could do coast as well, but let's also do sort of it says glassland instead of grassland. That's funny. So yeah, we're gonna come across some sort of right, let's just kind of roll a 2d6. Let's see how difficult this fight is. Oh good. That means it's good. That means it's gonna be lighter. That's good for us. So we're actually gonna make it. Well, technically that would be a medium encounter because they usually go as hard as the baseline. So let's generate an encounter real quick. A bunch of frogs. I think that a bunch of frogs are going to really attack a group of. That would be so many frogs. Just by themselves seems kind of silly. I mean, most of these are going to be CR0s, aren't they? A giant crab. I like that. Can we get 2 giant crabs? No. But maybe a giant crab plus some crab? Oop. That's not what I meant to do. It's a medium. Okay. Yeah, so they're going to be basically getting back there, and then there's some aggressive wildlife. And it says crab, but this is sort of a freshwater area, so probably not a freshwater crabs. They're probably, well, I mean, I guess they're sort of like the crabs from something like Skyrim, right? Because those are freshwater crabs as well. The man, I can't think of what those things are called. But there's like one quite big one that's like human sized, and then some little ones as too. And this encounter only has 2 creatures, but this is basically assumed to be Lia's portion of the fight. So that way, because I don't want to really run like 25 NPCs in single combat, that would be ridiculous. So we're only going to focus on her sort of portion of this fight, which would be one of the giant crabs and then a normal crab. All right. Those are super easy to figure out. All right. So let me pull these up real quick. They should both be in here. So there's the normal crab. Index of 0, as expected. Then we have the giant crab, which has dex plus 2. Okay. And the reason I'm looking that up is so we can figure out our initiative, and then we'll roll Leah's initiative. Leah's thinking about something else. Thinking about something completely different. Thanks, Leah. Gotta get your head in the game, girl. Alright, well, so giant crab, and Leah at the bottom. All right. Well, giant crab's gonna come out. I guess we should look at encounter distance. Um, so let's just roll. I'm just gonna roll a d6. No, let's make it a d12. A d12 times 5 feet. So we'll kind of know how far away they are. All right. So they're about 35 feet away, as sort of like the start of the combat. I'm trying to figure out if the thing's gonna be able to get there. It's not gonna be able to quite get to Lia. So it is going to spend its action, I guess, to dash, because that's what it would do. So both of the creatures are gonna. Let's make sure. All right. So the crab, yeah, if it dashes, it'll be able to get there too. All right. So she immediately gets like 2 right on top of her, without her being able to do anything about it. Then it's Leah's turn. Let's see. Leah's got some good stuff she can use. I think she could use Ice Knife, but I think that will just straight up kill her. Does Frostbite have... I'm trying to see... Does Frostbite have a big question for me? I can't remember if that's a save, because since she's in melee, that means that she has disadvantage on an attack roll. Nope, they have to make a con save. Okay, yeah, so we'll turn around. She kind of waves her staff around and is going to shoot a frostbite at the little crab. See if she can get that off the board. So that it has to make a con save, which I think it just has a basic 10, right? Let's double check. Yeah. So flat roll, and they have to beat her DC, which is 14? 13. All right. Does it beat? Does it make the save? No. 2 natural ones in a row. That's one of the reasons why I don't like using this online dice roller. But I think for the stream it makes more sense. That's okay. We'll just roll with the punches. So yeah, this crab kind of opens itself up as it tries to come in for like a little snappy snap, and she just kind of points down at it and just boom hits it with the ray of frost. She basically has to not roll a 1 on the die to kill it, and I think it's a d6 for frost bite, right? Yeah. Okay, so d6. Come on, 2 or better. You're killing me, girl. You're killing me. Okay, well, you know, Grab has 1 hit point. Dang it, Leah. Alrighty. So it's back up to the top. Giant crab is going to do giant crab things, which I assume is going to be an attack. You come in with the claws. Pinch, 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 pinch. Alright, against Leah. Let's see it. Well, that's definitely going to hit, because she only has an AC of 14. Alright, so she comes in and kind of... And the target is grappled. Interesting. Oh, yeah, of course, it rolls max damage, which is real bad news for Leah. Okay. Yeah, so she goes from 8 hit points to 1 hit point, and she's grabbed by this stupid thing. Oh, Leah. Oh, Leah. This is not good. This is not good. It's not good at all. Alright, then it makes it the crab's turn. Baby crab with 1 hit point. I'm gonna miss her, though. I know 6 for sure isn't gonna hit. There's no way it has like a +8 to hit. Which makes it Leah's turn. She's grappled by this thing. I think she... What does it take to break this grapple? DC 11 for the escape, which is not that hard. man. Forced movement also typically breaks grapples. And so I think that's what she's going to do. She's going to use her action. So this thing's got her claw sort of like around her abdomen. Probably, well, it's the size of a person. Probably around like her thigh or something, like squeezing her with a big sort of crabby lobster claw, crustacean claw, just holding her in place and trying to grab at her with the other one. And she's clearly bleeding from the wound. But we do know that force movement will change it. So what she's going to do is actually, she's going to use mold earth under herself and push herself up. And I think by moving one square up under a 5-foot cube of loose earth, because they're not in sort of a stoned area or anything like that, that she'll be able to break the grapple that way. Which means, honestly, she's going to have to run. She's got 1 hit point, and that was her action. Oof. Yeah, she's going to run. Let's see. This thing's going to still get an opportunity attack. Would I give it disadvantage? No, it's still technically a medium creature, so it can hit something that's 5 feet up in the air. Just game rules. All right, so she's going to run. This thing's going to make an attack. That's certainly going to hit, I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure it has a +2 to hit. Yep, that's +3. Alright, well, it hits Lia. So we know that Lia goes down. Just off that basic damage alone, but it will not be enough to kill her. But she is KO. She is out. Alright, so Lia is unconscious. That's not good. First level wizards off by themselves. Not a good idea. And as soon as she does, her method kind of poofs. Well, no, it doesn't. The method still acts on it. Familiar still acts on its own. But I'm pretty sure that methods don't have, and typically familiars don't fight. And the method doesn't have any sort of like healing properties, but the method could try to stabilize her, I guess. So yeah, let's say that her method, and it's certainly not going to get any bonus to it, but it only needs to roll a 10 or better. It doesn't, of course not. All right, Lia bleeds. All right, let's make Lia's first death saving throw. 15. All right, so success. Other stuff happens, so a round goes by. The question is does Norkruth and his crew catch up? I guess I don't really care so much about Norkruth. Again, there's like 20 plus people with her. Like this fight, it's highly unlikely that they would lose this fight. So I'm not really worried so much about her fully dying here. I mean, unless she just screws up all her death saves. We've rolled a few ones, so that's not a good sign. But really, I want to find out is, so I'm going to make an oracle roll. Is does Ott show up? Because we know that they're following them, so they're probably going to. The group stopped moving to do this encounter, so the other group's probably going to catch up to them pretty soon. I don't think they're that far apart. So let's just find out if they catch up or not. That's 14. 14 is a yes. Okay, so they show up. Okay, let's go ahead and make Lia's another round of death saves. That's a fail. Now, unfortunately, that means is that if we roll a natural 1 on our next one, then she will die. She'll just straight up be dead. But it is, so now we're going to find out, will Ott If they show up and Ott sees Leah laying unresponsive on the ground, is she going to step in to help? Yes. Awesome. All right, so yeah. Okay, Ott enters the fray. Let's roll initiative for Ott. I mean, maybe if Leah dies, maybe we'll just play Ott. Ott knows what she's doing. So Ott is definitely up here. So let's give Leah her next death save, and then Ott will get an opportunity to act. All right, she passes. Good. One more, and she's stabilized. So yeah, Ott enters the fray. Yeah, she's probably. If she saw her friend unresponsive, she'd probably go into melee to try to help her, rather than use her bow. But she's coming up. She would at least be able to get off one round of attacks, I think, with bow as she's close in the distance. So she gets to attack twice with her bow. So I think the first one, I think the biggest threat is probably the big guy, the big crab. So she'd make an attack against the big crab. 7 plus 4 is 11, which I don't think is going to hit their AC. I think their AC is like 12 or 13. Oh, it's 15. That didn't hit. Let's roll her other attack. Also not going to hit. Right? 9 plus 4. Nope. 13. Alright, then Leah shoots it. She draws her bow as she's sort of like running in and takes a couple shots. And they just boom, like ping off this thing's hard carapace. And she kind of throws down her longbow and pulls out her spear. Well, maybe I spoke too soon about Ott. Obviously, the giant crab's going to go with her as the target. And miss. No problem. The little crab will move his way over to Ott, make an attack. Also not... Yeah, now they can't roll. After they fully knock Leah out of the fight, now they can't act. Alright. Sorry about that. Just opening my water. Alright, another death save. Good. That's a pass. Alright, so she's stabilized. We don't need to worry about this anymore. She's stabilized. So, unless something comes and attacks her, she is good. And normally in a lot of situations where you fight something that's like a predator, I would assume that predator would try to drag the body back off to its lair to sort of feast upon the body. But I don't think this was going to be such a large fight because there's like 24 people in it, that there's going to be so much going on that I don't think the creatures would have felt safe enough to try to drag Leah off back to a lair at that point, because there's still too much going on. Otherwise, we would be dealing with that in some other sort of situation. But alright, so Leah made her save. She's stabilized. That means it's back to Ott. Ott has her spear. She's going to throw an attack at the big crab. I think she'll finally hit with that. Yeah, that's a 15. So she's going to hit this guy. So she's got a two-handed spear, and she's kind of stabbing at it. And it kind of does this weird sort of like chittering scream as she sort of like gets in between the folds of the carapace, and like she can feel her spear sort of like hit that delicious crab meat for a D8 plus 2 damage. 1. Great job, Ott. Man, did not think this was going to go that way. This was going to be such a difficult encounter. Alright, how many hit points? They have 13 minus 3, so Giant Crab has 10 hit points. Alright. But she does have a second attack. Oh, she definitely hits with that one. That's a little bit better. Minus 7. So now it's only down to 3. I don't think she can use her bonus action, right? I think that's only if she kills somebody. Yep, nope. Alrighty. So that's the end of her turn. Big Crab's gonna attack her. Success! So we'll attack her and grapple Ott. For minimum damage. Okay. But Ott is grapples. It sort of like grabs her spear in like one crab, and then grabs her leg with the other one. Little guy will little crab make his attack, which will hit Ott. What even is the crabs? How much damage do they do? Probably not very much, right? 1 takes no actual damage. I just does 1 point of damage. Okay. Cool. All right. So Ott takes another point of damage. And then that comes up to Lia. So I'm going to let Lia make death saves. Basically, she's just crit fishing. She's looking for a 20, because if she gets the 20, she'll get back up with 1 hit point. So just in case. That way she's not just chilling out necessarily for the rest of the combat. But, nope. Close, but no cigar. And back up to Odd at the top. I was going to try to get this big crab. Going to hit the big crab. Pretty sure that's enough to kill it. Nice. She hits it. She stabs it through its face. It goes limp. Its claw drops off of her leg. But Ott does get to do her rampage bonus. So after she kills a creature in melee on her turn, she can move 15 feet, which she doesn't need to move because she's being attacked. And she can make a bite attack. So she's going to reach down and just, like, put her mouth on this tiny crab and try to kill it. Which I love. Oh, yeah. That'll hit all day. And the thing's only got, 1 hit point. So she's kind of, probably like this thing, like, grabbed her. She's down on 1 knee. She stabs the thing through the face. Then she reaches over, just sort of like in her sort of like chittering cackle hyena sort of sounds, and then just makes a bark, and then just it just crushes the like normal sized crab's carapace like in her big maw. There's like the sick crunch, and it just wiggles. And that will be the end of combat. Ugh, man, that was a messy fight. I thought this would just be a one and done kind of thing. Like Lia would get her spell off and then be like 2 rounds and that'd be it. But that was not the case. Let's see how well. I'm just gonna roll a percentile, see how well Gimble, the rest of Gimble's crew was in the fight. 42. So they didn't do great. There was apparently some sort of like, they must have stumbled across some sort of crab like breeding session or something like that. There's a bunch of crabs here for some reason. Some sort of like nesting thing. And, you know, either they're after eggs or laying eggs, something like that. And they actually stepped into this, and so they went full aggro and attacked. So they don't look great. They're pretty beat up too. So that seems like a good place for them to sort of throw down camp. Now the question is, I'm pretty sure that Norcruth didn't stop. But let's roll the Oracle. I'm gonna make it. Did Norcruth stop? I'm gonna give them -5. Like they literally just had a pretty big shouting match just a couple of hours ago. So I don't think so. So -5 here. It's 13 though. And the 13 is a yes. So Norcruth stops there with his group. Maybe there's still like some sense of professionalism in there. Or maybe he was just sort of, he and his goons were just sort of waiting on the fringe to see like how the fight was going to go. Like if it didn't go super great, maybe they're going to step in and try to polish off Gimble's crew. And I don't know. Norcruth is not turning out to be a very very good person. So we're finding out he's not super great. He seems very petty. Though I guess that's not really surprising. He was kind of petty the first time we met him. He's not the greatest guy in the world. But that's the thing. So everybody stops. They'll make camp here on the shore. They got a bunch of crab, I guess. Let's just roll a d20. Well, no. What we should do is make a survival check. And this is something Ott can do. And I'm going to give her advantage because she's already got one of these stupid crabs in her mouth. And she's very good at survival. So she gets +3 to this roll anyways. Okay, yeah, that's a 20. So, yes. Yeah, I mean, I'm not even going to roll on the Oracle. I think that these things are, because you roll so high on the survival. Yeah, these things are perfectly edible. So they're going to have themselves a good old-fashioned crab boil, I guess. So yeah, they're at the edge of everything, and this is sort of a little so I'm not going to make them do a rashes roll. Oh, but Ott does need to make an arrows roll. She used at least 2 arrows. She wasn't conserving ammunition, and so she's going to lose an arrow. And I'm going to keep track of this over here. So what we set up before was that every time that Ott's in some sort of combat encounter and she fires her bow more than once, which is pretty much going to be every time because she has multi-shot, then she has to roll to see how many arrows she expends. Now, if you roll a 1 on this resource die, it goes down in size. So yeah, she definitely lost some arrows in this fight. And probably, right, this is sort of abstracted, so she probably fired some arrows somewhere else, like when she was off with Norcruth that we didn't see. And that makes more sense. So she's like, oh, I'm kind of down on the arrows. I'll need to buy arrows once I get back into town. All right. I'm not gonna make them roll on rations because they're gonna cook up all this crab. So yeah, I think they just kind of have a beachside party, kind of, where they just have a nice little crab boil here. And I think that's going to give them. So one of the things that we hadn't done previously, I'm kind of changing up how I'm doing the solo exploration because it's kind of a work in progress, seeing how it works by itself rather than with a group. And so that's why we kind of moved from the 1d6 to the 1d4 for tracking sort of fatigue. But another thing I'm sort of introducing is the ability to make sort of a morale check at the end of the day when you set camp to see if you can get a higher opportunity to get higher constitution, so you can get more done in the day. So basically, to do that, you need to pass a DC, which is whatever you're ending the day at, which is for us is 14. If you try to do something while you're in the evening in camp to sort of boost the morale of yourself and your compatriots. So I think this can be for Leah. This is a specifically Leah thing. Well, she's pretty intelligent, and I can kind of. So the idea is that you can kind of make it up to be whatever you want to make that roll, as long as you can sort of like narratively make it make sense. So I don't think anybody's going to be super happy about the Arcana. 3 investigation, maybe something with religion. Yeah, I mean, while they were out, they missed the holiday that happened because they were out and about, which is specifically like the spring equinox. So they missed that while they're out, and that's usually a big sort of to-do festival. It kind of focuses on. I talked about this a little bit last time. It's got a very sort of like Valentine's Day / Easter kind of vibe to it. It's like a spring renewal, but also like the beginning of courting seasons and budding and the return of nature, right? So it's also got a lot of sort of like young love, puppy love, romantic love kind of things that go on as well. And then one of the big deities that goes with that that I have for sort of my homebrew stuff. And you can find out a lot more of this information about the backstory about religion and the world in itself over at the website, redraggedfiend.com. But one of the primary deities attached to sort of that holiday is the Naiad, which deals with uh, obviously water, but also romantic love and things of that nature. So I think she's going to do some sort of like religious stuff to sort of since they missed the holiday to sort of kind of impromptu make a little bit of a ceremony about it and be like, oh, this, the good fortune that we'll be able to cook this, even though nearly freaking killed her. And now they're going to eat the stupid things. So let's see how she does with that check. So she's got a +3 in intelligence. She's trained in religion from sort of just her background of study in general. So +5 to the roll. We need to beat a 14. So that means we need to roll a 9. So there's a pretty good chance. But how Lia's rolls have been going. We'll see. Nope. So yeah, she tries, but it doesn't go well. Unfortunately, there is a penalty if you try and fail with morale. It lowers morale, and so she's trying to get the vibe up, but she's covered in bandages. Other people are injured. Like this was a surprisingly tough fight that they had with crabs, and they're just eating the things because they're here. Maybe they're just eating them out of spite, but they're definitely not thankful about it. So the rest of the group was definitely not into it. The vibe is definitely not great, even though she tries to lighten it up some. All right. So they set watches and things. They bed down for the night. So we'll see. I'm going to go ahead and give Lia her... She would have taken a short rest at this time and spent her hit die, because there is always the chance that something could happen during the night, too. Alright, so she has 6 hit points. Yeah. Ott didn't get really hurt, so I don't think that she would have healed up. Like, she's only down 3 hit points. Well, I don't know. It's the end of the day. I guess she would. Just don't roll a 1? Okay, yeah. So she'll spend a hit die. It's going to come back tomorrow, and she'll be up to full. Alright, so, yeah. So, like, both the groups are kind of camping together, but they're still separated. Like, again, nobody's in a particularly good mood. Like, Lia was trying her best, but we do also know that Lia's not a particularly personable person either. She's got that real nasty scar on her face. She's kind of got she kind of looks down her nose a little bit at people. Like, she's kind of a mess too. She didn't really help them in this adventure. Like, nobody really wants to deal with Lia at this point, except maybe Gimble and Ott. Alright, so let's roll. Does something happen during the night? It's a D12 roll. Okay, good. No. So now we do need to roll our D20 for the morning. So morning comes, everything goes alright. Unfortunately, instead of a 12, so I'm going to have a 10 for today because she rolled too low. Alright, and that's sort of the downside of trying to do the morale thing. So it's best to do, like, if you end the day where you're a little bit lighter on the constitution, you have a higher percentage of having high morale. Like, maybe you don't push. It works. I think it works really well. I mean, like, if you have an easy day, you feel better for the next day. If you really push on day, it's really difficult to try to get any sort of morale bonus out of that. You're more than likely going to actually fail on that. So the idea is that it's also optional. Like, if you ended up with like a 19 con day and you're like, there's no way I'm going to pass that morale check, or it's very unlikely I'll pass the morale check. You can just be like, actually, I'm not going to take the morale check. And then you can just like reset the bar, which is fine. I just thought with at a 14 with +5, there's a good chance she could do it. Lia failed me again. She failed us again today. That's okay, Lia. We still love you, kind of. But you're on thin ice. All right, so they wake up in the morning. They're going to continue the journey. So that does mean there's a new square or a new hex for us. So if I roll high, it is forest. If it's low, it's water. Okay, so it's more forest. So we'll go ahead and do that. So they pass through this sort of area here. I'm going to turn that to here. Boom. And then, I'm pretty sure it's still on here, but. Alright, so that's the hex they're in. They roll up there. Does anything attack them? No. And let's see how much. Killing us, man. Almost halfway there. 40%, man. Alright, nothing's gonna stop them from... do they go into the marsh or do they go into the unexplored hex? That's a good question. I mean, I'm sure Gimble would know the area, so let's just go ahead and flesh that out anyways. So it's either going to be desert if I roll low or water if I roll high. It's desert. Okay. Well, probably not going to go through the desert square. Do like to avoid doing that if possible. Because the desert's no fun. So I guess I'll go through the marsh. So they move into the marsh. And again, they're not stopping to explore anything that's in these hexes to see if there's any points of interest or anything like that. And okay, they're just trying to get back to camp. Their mission here is over. I don't know why I rolled that d20. I don't need a d20, I need a d12. Alright, they don't come across anything. It takes 2. Takes 2 to tango. And nothing's going to stop them from getting into camp, I don't think. Alright, so they're going to move from here. They're going to move over into Gimble's camp. We'll just make a final roll to see if anything does there. Nope. So they get there. And she's still good, so she's not exhausted once they get there. They don't have to push or anything. They get back to camp. I guess, so the major question is, no, we already determined that Ott was going to follow Norcruth back to his trading post. So, back into Gimble's camp, Gimble's already paid Lia. They kind of say their farewells. I think that Lia at this point is gonna kind of push. So another one, right? She was kind of double dipping on this mission. We have to remember that, because she actually has another mission for Makari, which is to get Gimble and his gang the heck out of here. He doesn't really like the idea of like 24 heavily armed people just like chilling out next to his home, his wealthy home, which is fair, right? So I think she tries to pry a little bit. She's gonna do some I think just a basic charisma check to try to get an idea of like, or I think she's both trying to figure out Gimble's next plan of action, but at the same time she's also trying to sort of like push him a little bit, like trying to lead him towards like, hey, maybe you should get out of here and go check out, get back to the slaving or whatever you do, right? Get back to the human suffering and whatnot. So yeah, let's see if she can sort of like be a little subtle and kind of lead him in that direction with just a basic. I think this is just a basic charisma check. It doesn't matter anyway. She's not trained in any charisma skills, so So she does a fairly good job, I think. Let's roll the DC for it, but okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, the DC was quite low. So that's actually an 11 DC, just because we rolled 6 there. So yeah, she almost doubles that DC. So yeah, I mean, he's probably pretty open about it. And he's like, yeah, the only reason I was here is because of the stupid Myrmidon, and then checking up on Norcrew. But I mean, you're privy to how that went. So I'll probably head out here. Probably head back to head back to. That's a good place. Do we have a location that makes sense for him to be heading back to? If not, we might be making up a new location. So I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna say that he's gonna head back. And well, let's ask an oracle question. Is because I think he's gonna head back to the city. I think that makes sense. He's a cosmopolitan kind of person. I think that he would definitely be heading back to a city where he does probably the majority of his work, and being a noble. So the question is the city he going to the same city that Riverside Conservatory is, Leah's old academic place? It's just an oracle roll. 11. So we got an interrupted scene. A 10 or 11 is an interrupted scene. So she's trying to coax this out of him, trying to sort of get some information about him, but something happens instead. Let's roll again. An existing faction or group. Okay. So we don't have too many of those, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to put all of these guys in there. All of our groupings in there. 1. Which is Riverside Conservatory. Okay. Something to do with Riverside Conservatory. I mean, that clearly in my mind is Omer, which we just have him down as the Sage. But this is Omer. I just haven't updated that. So something to do with Omer is going to sort of interrupt this scene. I'd love it to get an adventure hook out of this. That'd be great. Let's see. Well, technically, it's not supposed to be an NPC. It's supposed to be the faction itself, because there's a different thing that goes for NPCs. So this is a faction or group that was existing. We said Riverside Conservatory. Riverside Conservatory, and then I rolled a 13, which is lose faith or morale. So I think that Omer would be the person who would have that news, I think. No. Well, no, Gimble's been out here longer than Leah has. But he has better connections than Leah. Leah didn't get any information when she went to Riverside Conservatory. And sort of like the prologue of our adventure. The kind of off-screen things that happen. So maybe he has some other information. So there's some sort of maybe it's the city. The city, somebody's lost faith. Well, I mean, instead of guessing, let's roll again. See if we get something else that'll tell us who. Creatures extraordinary. All right, so Riverside Conservatory's lost. Has had sort of a decline, sort of like faux pas or something's come out about them. That's right. We know that they do research on extraordinary creatures. maybe it's coming to light that some of their information is wrong. And maybe that's made purposefully wrong. Maybe this is going to tie back. I think that's going to tie back into our main mission there. So Gimble tells us that he's heading back to the city to see if there's any workaround. He's sort of an adventurer, but he does. I think he's more a bounty hunter than sort of adventurer. I think he's bounty hunter / slaver. So I think that he is interested to get back to town to see if any of this fallout from Riverside Conservatory is going to lead to maybe some bounties being picked up or some people that are going to need to be clapped in shackles. And so I think that's where he's going back to. So he's definitely going back to that city. And so this kind of perks up Leah's attention, like, oh, okay, well, that's very interesting. Question is would Leah try to accompany Gimble? I don't think so. I think Leah kind of wants to do her own thing, and she still needs to talk to Omer. And Gimble, I assume that Gimble's going to head out maybe tomorrow? I don't know, they've got sort of a camp set up, so it may take them a couple days to break it down. Let's give them a D4. Okay, or one day. Break it down and take it in one day. Why not? All right. Yeah, sure. No problem. All right, so we get back there. He's gonna take off. Let's find out. Let's jump over to our map. It's gonna be really important. Actually, I'm going to full screen this thing so we can get a better look at it. So we know that's sort of Gimble. So we need to figure out where the city is. So we're gonna do a D6 directional, starting with this guy up here. This will be 1. Oop. Losing my mind. Here we go. All right, so it's to the east somewhere. Now the question is that we said it was far away, but it's not super far away. So, I don't think it's going to be... So, you'll see on the left side, we've got our sort of scales. Atlas, region, county, and then obviously we're in the sort of local hex area. So that would be capital. That would be a city. So if we're looking for a legitimate city, it's got to be at the region size. So it's going to be to the right. I think we'll just roll a 1d4 to kind of figure out how many squares away it is. Back over here. How many tiles to the east it is? 1. Okay, so it's not that far. Well, relatively. All right, so now we know that here, and let's go ahead. So we didn't have that previously, but well, we know that for certain that this, if you can see my clicking there we go. We know that this one specifically does not have a point of interest in it. We rolled, we did not get that, so if we were going to go east one more, so this will have the city. We're going to have, so this will have Riverside Conservatory. And that's what I'm going to name it for right now because we don't know what the name of the city is yet. But that's going to be the city where that is. And so let's add an icon to it. What do we do? Drop that down, so that tells us that it's a big city. And I guess we could tell. So let's go. We'll do secret notes because I want to fill this up. So it's a city. So the way that I do the world building for a city of that size is going to be, and we'll roll that right here. It's going to be between 1,000, a population somewhere between 1,000 and 60,000. So we'll roll 1d60, which is a 6 and then a 10. So 44. Okay, so there's like 44,000 people that live in it. So it's a sizable city. Which means that it has a BP of 4.4k. And what BP stands for, and it's equal to 10% of a location's population, and this is just sort of a rule of thumb that I use for D&D, is basically the amount of gold that's available economically. So the things that you can buy or sell, that puts sort of a cap at the level of items. So big cities, like this one's got 44,000 people in it, you can find items that are up to a cost of 4.4 thousand gold, which includes a lot. It basically, that'll give you, as far as adventurers are concerned, most adventuring gear. There's probably going to be some magic items that are available. I usually don't let magic items do a lot of buying magic items, but there may be some magic items available if we put time in to find them. We'll also be able to sell magic items. Once we reach a city that's big enough, we can offload some magic items. Like we have that Horn of Silent Alarm that we really haven't used for anything yet. Really hasn't come up, that we just kind of stumbled across in our first fight. Speaking of which, we should see if the crabs have any treasure. We didn't do that. I'll do that real quick. And then I'll do all the sort of the world building stuff for the city kind of off screen, or that may be what I do in my stream. Like I said, we're going to have an impromptu stream probably on Thursday. So the best way to get the notifications for that, obviously, is follow on Twitch. If not, on Twitter. I'll try to make a notification whenever I go live. And maybe I'll build the city there, because that's probably going to be our next stop after we talked with Omer. So we need to start baking that, getting that prepped, and figure out what's in the city. That'd be a fun stream. So maybe I'll save that for the stream. But I'm not going to spend our time here working any more on this than that, because I don't know, we're going to figure out the city's name and all that good stuff. But we're not going to do that right now. But for right now, we're at Gimble's camp. We have talked to him. He and his buds are heading out tomorrow. That's what they told him. Leah's like, sound great. Can I... do they have any more boats? Because maybe she can borrow a boat? If they have any boats, they're probably going to want to sell them because they're leaving the area. They're not going to take those boats with them, because they're headed... they're going to be heading east, and they can only take the boats so far, and probably the trading post is their best opportunity for actually selling the boats before they get to the city. And we don't know right now, right? We see that there's a river coming off the oasis, right? That hooks south and up, the river we were on, and it's heading east, but we don't know if it makes it all the way to the city. So I can't assume that it does. So I think Gimble's, if they have any boats, they're going to sell them. So let's just ask the Oracle. Do they have any boats left? 10. I'm not going to interrupt that scene, so I'm just going to, because we just had a scene interruption, where we kind of learned about that information, that extra information. So the answer is no. They don't have any boats to sell, because I was going to see if Leah could maybe borrow a boat so she didn't have to walk all the way around the oasis. But that's not in the cards, apparently. So, yeah, they're sitting pretty, right? She may just stay in their camp for the night. Oh, speaking of which, I gotta get better at remembering when I'm doing the stream that we've got to update these guys. So it's actually 16. The weather's really had. There were some high winds that wouldn't have really done anything. I mean, it might have given Ott disadvantage shooting her arrows in the combat, but she didn't need it because she's left with them anyways. But yeah, we're kind of tapped out as far as sort of our travel exploration is. So I think she'll ask to spend the night. I'm not gonna make a roll on that. I don't know any reason why Gimble would refuse her the ability to stay in camp with them as they're cleaning up. So yeah, they're gonna do that. They're gonna bed down for the night. We'll roll to see if anything happens in the night, but hopefully not. And then of course Leah's already back up to full. Oh, before I do that, before I roll that, I was rolling the wrong guy anyways. She is gonna make a morale roll this time. And I think what she does is she really kind of leans into Gimble and kind of talks about sort of the arcane stuff that's going on at Riverside Conservatory and tries to get more information out of him, but makes a very pleasant conversation. Then tries to inform him about, oh, this is some of the research that I did when I was there. Does Gimble know that she was there? She probably wouldn't bring that up, actually. I don't think she would. But she's going to sort of make casual conversation, then sort of like tell him a little bit about, and elementals and things like that in nature, and the things that might be related to whatever that issue is. So let's roll a d20. She is trained in Arcana, so she'll get again the +5 to this. Hey, let's go. All right, nice. So she passed it, so she is going to get the advantage on it. Say, now we just need to make sure nothing happens during the night. Something happens during the night. It is dressing, though. So dressings, I keep in here. I mean, technically we're just in the grasslands, right? I mean, that's probably what we use. Plains. So it's a d20 roll. We got some stuff in here. So when you roll a 12 on the 12, so 1 is an encounter, and we already did that. A 12 is dressing, which is sort of a primarily non-combat sort of encounter. It's just sort of usually a flavor thing, but it can be an opportunity to, learn something, or it couldn't be detrimental to you. It's just usually not a combat sort of focus kind of thing, or thing that can turn into combat. That one does not make sense for us. A wide river doesn't make sense for us because we are not we're dealing with a river area, and we're not traveling. So we're just going to chalk that up to being probably... do I want to leave it as just nothing? I mean, I think so. I don't think there's any reason to sort of push the issue here. They're safe, and it's a bivouac camp, so it's already been set up. It's already, it's a semi-permanent camp, basically, because they've been here for weeks. So I think nobody's going to attack it. I thought about maybe Norcruth snuck back over, or Ott did, but I don't think so. I think they just rest in the night, get up in the morning. Let's find out her con. Big money, no whammies. That's a whammy. All right. Thanks, Leah. Real glad you're here. But at least her con thing goes back up to 12. Unfortunately, we just immediately lose that because that was for the day before. So she wakes up in the morning. It's a relatively nice day, right? Average temperatures, calm winds, clear skies. This goes up. So 15th, 25th. Spring Mother 15th, and which means tomorrow's a weekend, right? Checking my map real quick. Oh no, today's the weekend. Sorry. So it's the first sort of. There's one. I have a full calendar. I'll assume I'll put it up sometime. But it does mean that this is a weekend day. She's waking up. And then she will sort of, I think she'll just take her leave. And she needs to walk around so she can go to Akari and collect collect that money. She's already got her stuff from Gimble. Alright, so we're going to move some hexes. And we need to find out what's in this hex first. So it's either going to be a desert or a water square based off of what we've got going on around it. If I roll high, obviously it's water. Alright. So she kind of moves through this very sandy region. And again, while we call this an oasis because she's not in a particularly, even though there is some sort of some wooded areas, that's basically seasonal dry forest. So I mean, it kind of goes back and forth between being kind of a somewhat light forest and somewhat just kind of scrubby kind of place during the dry season. But they're in a particularly kind of rough environment. That's where they are right now. So it makes sense that she's going to have to travel through some just kind of abandoned, sort of sandy kind of area. But we do need to know that and that. Yeah, really? Wow, 2 12s in a row. Okay. So now she is going to come across something. We got the one for the con. And she is heading around, and let's roll that d20. I just put down the thing. Now I'm going to pull out the dressing again. 20! What a thing to waste a natural 20 on. Could have used that during the fight, Leah. Thanks. Alright. Oh, good. Good. Alright. I just need a high or low to find out what kind of creature this is. If it's high, it's a bite. Okay. So she's walking around. She went through this sort of desert area, and then there's a sharp pain sort of on her lower leg, and she looks down, and she's been attacked by a snake, apparently. So she needs to make a save versus poison. Let's just figure out what the DC, random DC is for that. Oh, good. It's super high. That's like 21. So she'll make a con save. She has to roll a 19. She doesn't. Yeah, no, she's totally poisoned. Good. Great job, Leah. Immediately walk off on your own, immediately get attacked by a snake, and you are poisoned. That's all that the dressing has, so this isn't necessarily gonna make this sort of a life-threatening thing that maybe she's just gonna die out here, and just a random occurrence. But she does have the condition, which is poison in 5e, which means that she has disadvantage on all ability checks. Not attacks, not saves, just checks. So basically, mostly skill rolls. So that's great. Oh, and I didn't roll the treasure for the crabs. Let's do that. I keep forgetting to do that. Alright. So again, this is one of the things that I have in this bad boy. Like I said, we'll do some other streams where I'll probably go over some of the stuff that's in here. Alright. Type of treasure. Oh, that would have been helpful to know. So a 19 or a 20 on this roll is a magic item. So they found some magic items with the crabs. That's weird. Alright, and now roll another d20 on this chart, and that will tell me the sort of level, if it's going to be a common or uncommon magic item. 14. Alright, that's a common. So it's some sort of common magic item. Do I have anything that tells me the type? Can't remember if I have a thing for type. I could roll for the amount of money, though that seems kind of silly. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll a d10 pyramid style, so 4, then 3, then 2, then 1. to kind of determine the type of item it is. All right, that's 1 through 4, so it's some sort of single-use common item. So it's probably a consumable. And you know what? I'm gonna figure out what that is. I'm not gonna spend the time here. I'd rather wrap up before we close down the stream. I want to wrap up the things with the Akari first and try to determine what we're gonna do next time. So I'm just gonna leave a note here, and we've got some treasure down here. So we have a consumable magic item, and I'll figure out what that is afterwards, sometime during the week, and then we can talk about it next time. It's probably going to be a potion or maybe a spell scroll, and hopefully a spell scroll. That'd be really nice to get Lia another spell that you could copy into her book. That'd be really nice. But that is that. So again, she's poisoned. Super job, Lia. And we're going to make our way into the next hex now. So we get our D12 and our D4. Thank goodness nothing happens to us this time. Oh wait, I made a successful morale check. Why did I not add that? Alright, our total went from 12 to 14. Alright. You know, sometimes it doesn't go great. You only get a little bonus. Sometimes, but it's really swingy. Sometimes it could be a really big bonus or no bonus at all. Let's see. Now we need to determine what kind of thing this is. So this is either going to be, if I roll low, it's going to be wetland. If I roll high, it's going to be water. Okay, so another wetland. Cool. These little guys are wetlands. Boop. There we go. Make sure this guy stays. Boop, boop, boop. Should probably just do that to all of these. I'm thinking about it. No, I haven't yet. There we go. And I just keep those shaded so it's much easier for me to tell a quick look like where each hex is. Because each one of this, so like sort of this primary area here in the middle is equal to down on the left there, that square. So I need to know like these are nesting hexes, so they go into each other. So it's much more helpful for me to be able to tell like where the hexes are in relation to each other. Just helps keep things a little bit more organized. But she has moved into here. She didn't come across anything. All right, so she'll continue off into here. Let's find out what that is. So now that we're no longer in one of these kind of guys, we gotta roll 2d6. Boop, boop. 11. Okay. Well, I don't need to look that one up because I know what that one is off the top of my head. So this one, if you roll an 11, is a hill. This is a hilly area right here that we've moved into. Anything jump out at us? No. But it is taxing. Alright, like I said, I don't think there's going to be anything that'll keep us from getting there, but we're just going to keep doing it. Alright, so this is either water or... Alright, so it's going to be a water hex. Nothing... Oof, but again, very hard to get through. She may have to stop for the night again. Speaking of which, we didn't do a rations roll for her. Let me do a rations roll for overnight. Okay, she's fine. So yeah, they moved into this area, which I rolled high on. So this is right. I rolled high, didn't I? I can't remember. I can't remember if I rolled high or not. So let's roll again. I did roll high, apparently. Alright, well, that's kind of unfortunate. It means that she's going to run into a spot where she cannot. She's either has to go all the way around that water, or she's going to have to try to swim through it, or wade through it. It's probably not quite that deep. Let's see. I mean, let's ask the Oracle. Or actually, she'll make a perception check first to see if she can try to figure out. Well, maybe that's a survival check. Put this over here real quick. Let's see. She's not very good at survival checks. She's better at perception checks, but not by much. Leah's having kind of a hard day. She's already got disadvantage. I'll give her the +1. Alright, a 12. That's not too bad. She might actually pass this DC. Okay. Unfortunately, she doesn't. And that's a 16 DC, and that's not going to help her. So she kind of looks at it. She's trying to see if there's, like, a shallow enough spot where she can maybe, or maybe some of the sludge is built up, and she can maybe kind of wade across here to get over to Akari's place. Or maybe see if there's somebody that she can kind of, like, flag down who's got a boat that's going by. But it doesn't seem like she's able to do that. So the question is she going to try to swim across? Which, since she's poisoned and has disadvantage on it, and she's got a +1 to strength, so, I mean, she could swim across it, but I feel like drowning would be a very dumb way for Leah to die, and I think Leah's far too smart for that. So she's going to go around and hope that she can find an overland way to get there, because we don't know, because she doesn't know the hexes, and we don't know the hexes. That's sort of the point, is that we're kind of making up the land as we go. Alright, well, that's what we learned. So, yeah. So she went into this one, so it says it's full water hex, but I'm going to say that it's probably not. But she might... It's a pretty flat area. Yeah, I'd say that she could probably take a look and see if that next hex that attaches to Akari. So here's Akari's place. Let's see if this hex, which, I mean, right, we know the weather's clear. There's good visibility. She should be able to. I'm not even gonna make a roll for it because the weather's so good, and there's flat land around. There's nothing that's sort of blocking her vision. She should be able to tell. It's not that far away on flat ground what the biome is of the next area. So if I roll high, it's going to be the scrub, which would be good. Of course I don't. Of course I don't roll that. Of course we roll this one. We are just not getting the rolls we need today in those circumstances. All right. Well, she's kind of boned. So she's here. She sees, which is good to know. We didn't know that before, but Akari's plantation is basically an island that's in the middle of the oasis, which is really cool. We didn't know that before. And I kind of assumed that it was sort of a peninsula into the oasis, but no, it's fully just like a high spot in the lake itself, which is just sort of a marshy island that he's been using to cultivate and for his rice plantation. Okay. Well, how is Leah going to get there? How much stuff does she have? Her con shredded. There's no way. I really don't want her to drown. So I am going to move her back into the hill, I think. Into this hillside. So let's see if anything happens to her while she's there. Yeah, I mean, that's going to tap her out for the day, but... Nope. So she hit 14 and 14. But she's poisoned. And I think the poison effect stays until you take a rest. And that's what she's going to do now. So she's going to bed down for the day. Let's do our rations roll real quick. Our supplies roll. Supplies look good. She's going to bed down for the evening. She's going to have her method sort of help her keep watch. That is one of the things that the familiars can do. So I'm going to give her sort of, I'll give her advantage probably. No. Does something happen during the night? No. All right. She's going to wake up in the morning. She's not going to be poisoned anymore. We're going to move the days forward. Which stays exactly the same because we had 2 rolls in a row. And I used a little weather hex flower to generate, so I generated a few days beforehand. But it's now kind of Monday for people in the area. Oh, sorry, which is actually not 16. It's actually 21. That would make more sense probably if you'd seen the calendar. The calendar, the first numeral is in the tens place, tells you what week of the month it is, rather than the day. So it jumps from 15 to 21 because it's the first day of the second week from the last day of the first week. Again, I'll probably have a stream where I go through some of that stuff, but that's just easier for me because I've already made up that part of this sort of fantasy calendar that I use for most games, because it works pretty well, or at least I think it works pretty well. All right, so she gets up in the morning, things are good, we've made our checks. She's no longer poisoned now that she has rested. Question is, can she find somebody to flag down to maybe catch a ride? See if she can get a boat crossing here so she doesn't have to try to swim. Because her swim, right, she's not a slouch, but her swimming's not super great, and it would get all her stuff wet. She'd rather take a boat. And apparently this thing's on an island, which, you know, Lia may not have known before, because the only time that she's been there is to literally stay at his homestead and then take a boat back to Split Valley Oasis. So, or to the trading post, specifically. So, yeah, she is going to spend her time, her first action of the day, trying to wait around for somebody to show up, and she's going to try to flag them down, which I think is just a basic perception check. And I'm going to give her advantage because she has the method with her now. Probably didn't need it, but let's double check the DCs on that. Yeah. Either one would have succeeded. That was a 14 DC. Alright, so they find somebody, they sort of flag them down. She probably offers them some sort of payment. She's kind of flush with some cash now. She's got 44 gold, so I think I'm just going to knock off a gold, which is pretty good payment for what's basically going to be an hour's worth of somebody's time to basically ferry her back across. Because that's basically a day's wage for a basic commoner. We'll roll for an encounter, but I'm not going to roll because she's not going to be the one rowing the boat. I'm not going to make her take any fatigue from that. So does something happen as they try to cross? No, thank goodness. Alright, perfect. So yeah, she crosses. She's going to make it here. Let's see if anything happens before she gets there. No. Just spend a lot of time just kind of trekking through the mud. I should have rolled for her flag down things and wait on that. Yeah, one, that makes sense. Alright, so she spent 5 of her 12 movement. That's fine. I'm just probably didn't need to keep track of that. Just gonna keep track of it anyways. She's gonna talk to Akari, Akari, tell her everything that's happened. She's taking care of the Myrmidon. Confirmed KIA, killed in action. Confirmed dead. And she probably brings out sort of like, because she still has the plate armor. Oh yeah, she has the plate armor. She definitely wouldn't have been able to swim across. So thank goodness she was able to flag down a boat who could ferry her across. Because the idea is that there are a lot of people that live in this area. The trading post itself has 1,000 people, and Akari has a huge plantation rice plantation. There's people coming across this place. It's a major trading hub. There are boats coming across this lake all the time because it's the fastest way to get across it. So yeah, I don't think it's unreasonable that she would be able to find somebody to flag down. It just kind of takes time. And so she was able to flag somebody down. She came back down. She shows Akari the helmet, confirmed dead. The Myrmidon's gone. She brought the halfling slaver and his crew back to camp. Talked to him extensively. He's they're packing up and leaving this morning. You've probably noticed already. Payment time. Is Akari happy? So this is just going to be an Oracle roll. I think, yeah. She's already had a previous success with him. She's got proof of the dead Myrmidon, which is not even something he asked her for. And there's already proof that Gimble and his crew are already packing up and trying to get out of there. So I'm going to give her a +5 on this. I think it's very likely that he's extremely happy with her. Oh, yeah. 21. No problem. So that's a yes, and then we get some sort of edge from that, usually. Because we rolled so well. Okay, so 6 is an interesting one. This is usually a detrimental effect. It usually forces a hard bargain of choice. Or plus or minus a resource. So no really hard choice here. It's something that's in our favor, in Lia's favor. So yeah. I think he's going to pay her. We've already said that Akari is a pretty generous employer, as was let's put this way. We already know that he's a pretty generous employer. Let me double check my notes. Did we say how much he was going to pay? I think it was 2 per? I can't remember. Let's look down. Do we put it down here? No, we don't have that. So we did convince Gimble to leave. I mean, by destroying the thing that was keeping him here. That's going to get rid of the... So we're going to complete this thread. Now, man, I cannot remember. I gotta start writing down what the potential rewards were. I think it was 2 gold per day. And that took a lot of days. I didn't track the days either. But it was definitely... Look, okay, well, let's look at the calendar, because I know that we left the day before the festival. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is the 8th day of work. So 8 times 2 is only 16 gold. That's not a ton of gold. But let's go with that. And then I'm going to, because we got such a good edge, I'm going to roll a treasure. Some sort of additional treasure for her. But she's going to get the 16, which is 16. So 56, 59. 9 gold. And then we're going to throw some treasure for her. Because he's pleasantly surprised, right? Like, he's been dealing with Omer for weeks. He's been dealing with these people across the lake from him for weeks. You know, not getting anything done. Lia shows up. It's like, boom, boom, boom. She's knocking out quests. Doesn't want to be an adventurer, but still knocking out quests. Like, I feel like Akari is a competent businessman. Right, we know this from him. He runs a very successful rice plantation in an area where it's very dry and not a lot of stuff grows. Farming land's not really great, but the oasis is really great. And he's kind of runs this entire place and kind of oversees the trading post. And it's a major trading hub, and it's basically almost a town at this point. It's got like 1,000 people living in it, I think. So it's sizable. I think that he understands, and having dealt with, now that we know what like Norcruth and Omer are, he's pleasantly surprised by Lia's competency, and I think that comes from being her sort of background as a researcher and somebody that comes from a big city and deals with like professional services all the time. So I think he sees that and he's like, yeah, when you find good people, you should definitely reward them well. So that way when you ask them for something next time, they're more likely to say yes, right? So let's just roll an additional sort of treasure. And I think I'm going to give one for Ott as well. Even though Ott wasn't technically on this mission, I don't know if Akari knows that. I don't know if we really talked about that. Actually, I'm pretty sure Ott was supposed to be part of this, or at least they've discussed it in Ott's presence, at least somewhat. No, let's just make it Lia. Lia's our player character. Let's not keep giving extra stuff to Ott. Ott's fine. She's a sidekick. All right, so let's roll our treasure type. We could roll another magic item. That'd be nice. Probably not, though. No. Do I want pocket contents? So 1 through 8's usually pocket contents, and that's usually just sort of like minor treasure that you would find in somebody's bucket. So I'm going to give myself a roll in the pocket contents to see if something, because there are some useful things in there. See if something jumps out at me. 6 and 3. 6 was paper, which is one of the things I was hoping for. But would he give her a banknote? He literally just paid her coinage. Probably not. So I'm going to roll again. I'm going to roll until I get something other than pocket contents, basically. That's pocket contents. I need something that's 9 or better. There we go. 11. Trade goods. And trade goods. 5. That's a really good roll. That means it's some sort of trade goods that's worth 5 platinum pieces or 50 gold pieces. Wow. So that's pretty substantial. Oh. Arms, armor, or ammunition. What would she use? $50 gold in arms and armor. But would that make sense? What would he give Lia that's like that? I mean, he might give her something quite fancy, right? But Lia doesn't wear armor, number one. And as a wizard, she can't, which I think is really silly, but that's fine. You guys have any ideas? Sorry, I gotta get back over to the shopping stuff. Alright, Alright, so yeah, she could get, I mean, obviously none of the weapons, I don't think there are any weapons that cost 50. No, there are some ranged weapons that are kind of, well, a longbow costs 50. I mean, she can use a longbow, but why would she? Maybe it could be a very specific bow, though. But longbows are already worth 50. I can't remember. Is Akari a full elf? Yeah, he's a full elf. All right. Yeah, it's gonna be like something that's from his family. Give her a longbow that's from his family, so it's like an heirloom weapon. I mean, he doesn't really need it. It's a bargaining piece, right? Like having a nice piece of like family jewelry or something that you might pay somebody. It might, it sort of signifies a connection between you and the person you give it to, right? And I think there's probably a little ceremony, and he presents Leah with this beautiful longbow and talks about how it's been sort of like in their family for generations. Beautiful elven craftsmanship. They're both elves, so this is very sort of cultural kind of thing that they're doing. Yeah, so I think she gets that longbow. That's sort of a family heirloom of Vakari's. So that's a cool thing for her to have. I mean, useful, not really. It's more useful as a plot token than it is for her as a weapon, but it is what it is. She might be able to let Ott borrow that if Ott stays with her, which we'll probably find that out next time. But let's go ahead and add that in for treasure. So we've got our treasure here. Back up here at the top. And we've got a a elven longbow. Bakari. Family heirloom. Yep. That's what I'm trying to do. Heirloom. Okay. All right. So that's where we are. I think that he will. They probably make some pleasant conversation. How's she doing? I forgot that. How's she doing? She's probably about 5 out of 12, so she's doing okay. I think Akari thanks her for everything she's done. Asks her about what she's going to do next. She talks about, she's probably going to head back to city name that we don't know yet. So I think there's some well wishes, and he's like, "Look, I'll pay for you to have one final night at the end with you and your companion." He says companion, though he kind of like raises an eyebrow because Ott's not here. And for them to set off. And then, so we're going to kind of hand wave that he's going to allow her to take a boat, or probably have somebody ferry her back over across the lake. There, and that's probably going to pull her out for the rest of the day. Let's do some shopping. So I'm not gonna do any of the buying here, but she does have some. She's at least gonna try to offload this gemstone at one of the trading vendors. So generally, it's worth 50 gold. So obviously, somebody's gonna want to pay less for that, so they can sell it at 50 gold because they know because 50 gold is like the market price, right? So you assume D&D 5 kind of assumes that you're gonna get 10% of that, but 5 gold for 50 gold, please. Gemstone is kind of crazy. So I'm going to give her sort of a bartering check to see how much you can get. We'll start off with like 25 at 50%. And if she goes higher than that, then we'll maybe do a percentile roll. I think that seems fair. Alright, so she is going to make a charisma check. And in other times, I might try to figure out if there's somebody in town who would even be interested in this item, but we know there's a jeweler in here, so we know there's going to be, and there's a bunch of traders, somebody's going to be interested in this item. So we will roll, and it's a charisma check, which gets +2 to sort of convince them to pay her more. Come on, Leah, you're killing me, girl. Alright. So that's just, let's do some quick math right there. So that's the percentile. So we said 25 gold. So she's gonna get 13 gold for it. Okay. Lia, you gotta be better, girl. But I mean, she still has plenty of gold. Like, we're not worried about her gold level. It's just, it's a lot of fumbled rolls that we could have really used a good throw on, but we're not getting those today. And that's all right. So yeah, she's gonna offload that treasure. Let me make sure that this is taken care of. Oop. All right. So she's got the corrupted water myrmidon plate armor. Is there a smith here? I don't think there is a smith here. No, there is. I'm pretty sure. Let's yeah, there's a smith. So she's gonna take a water myrmidon. Would she have had time to? Well, she doesn't have identify. Yeah, I think the plate itself is probably magical. We've got an oracle for a reason. Is the water myrmidon plate? And no, it has to be magical. It's corrupted, right? We know it's corrupted. So we know it's magical. So she's going to take it to. Is there anybody? So that's going to be the oracle roll. Is there anybody here, a trader or a shop owner or somebody who knows enough about magic to be able to tell them whether this thing's salvageable or not? Let's make an oracle roll. I think it's 50-50. 16. 16's just a straight up yes. Okay, so yeah, she finds some place to sort of take it in to get it appraised, and they take a look at it. So the follow-up question would be, is this something that this person could do? Could they fix this to make it uncorrupted? To, like, remove the corruption, I guess. Nine. No, but that's a no but. Let's roll a d20, but if this doesn't turn out, I know what this is going to be instead. No, but a new NPC enters the scene. Alright, so we have a new NPC. I think I've got my NPC stuff in here. I think. Oh, I've got a 1d100 NPC chart that's in this guy. So let's find out. So somebody new enters the scene. That's what we ended up rolling. And we know it's going to be positive for us as we're having this conversation. 97. Amazing. It is magical talking animal or item. We're literally here talking about a magic item. This is a new NPC. I think the corrupted plate is sentient. It starts talking. It starts talking. So yeah, she takes it in here, and he's, the person behind the counter probably has like a big jeweler's loop on there, like poking and prodding, using all sorts of magical instrumentation to sort of take a look at this thing and figure out, what is this thing? What is it doing? And as they're doing that, it begins to groan, and like the pieces begin to shudder of the plate armor while it's on the counter, and then sort of maybe gravelly, kind of dry, like maybe hasn't talked for a long time, voice sort of begins to speak. And I'm pretty sure that this thing it's an elemental thing. I assume it probably speaks primordial, which luckily, because of Lia's background, being an elemental and primordial focused person, can understand it. Okay. So we have a new NPC, and that NPC is that this armor is sentient. Okay, good to know. So we're just gonna we're just going to add it here that it's sentient. So he wasn't able to do it, but this thing begins talking, and I assume it begins talking because they're talking about removing the corruption from it. And I can understand that this thing probably would not have spoken before because it doesn't. Being a piece of armor, it probably understands that most sentient races don't speak primordial. So it would be saying nothing to nobody. It would just be gibberish. So it probably doesn't say a lot, and then it was on somebody. It's probably been in a big bag since then, getting dragged around on their way back. So this is the first opportunity to kind of be looked at and talked to. And so I think that's going to give us a straight up quest. Because we know that this person cannot uncorrupt the plate. But the plate can be, the corruption can be removed. Maybe it's corruption, maybe it's a curse. We don't really know. Sewer partial your threads. Okay. Alright, so we investigated the water. Put it down here. And, uncursed or uncorrupted. We'll put that like that. And I think the easiest way to do that is that I didn't bring it out because I didn't think we were going to need it. But I do have a thing that's useful for sort of like making up quests like this. I think it's down here. Yeah, there we go. Oh, all the stuff's falling out of it. Oops. So I've got this little handy dandy sheet that just kind of gives you a quest. So what we need to do to basically uncorrupt this, and I think that she's able to get that sort of. There's probably an older item, right? It's probably been around for a while. You know, being a magic item, that tends to be the case. All right, so we need to find something. What do we need to find? We need to find some information, some obscure information. Okay. And we don't need to worry about the reward. We know what the reward for the quest is. It's going to be the sentient armor that probably somebody can wear, because I'm going to guess that it can't be worn right now. That's sort of the major issue with it, right? If you wear this on, you're going to go crazy like the corrupted water myrmidon was. All right, so we need to find a bit of esoteric information. Well, you know the best place to find esoteric information about primordials and elementals? We know where that is. That's at Riverside Conservatory. That's serendipity. Like that just tells us that we need to go there. And we also need to talk to Omer. We've been putting it off. We've been putting it off for multiple weeks in and out of game at this point. Not talking to Omer. We've got to talk to Omer. It's the final thing that we got to do here. We got to talk to Omer, see if Ott's coming with us. And then we're gonna get the hell out of this trading post. We're gonna head back towards the city, I think. I think that's it. All right, let me add that to our quest. So we need to find a bit of information. And we're just going to say that probably the best place is like then she can do a full research on it. This one little thing may be the olive branch that we need for Omer to get on Omer's good side, and maybe Omer will even accompany us at that point once we have this conversation about what happened to Harold, the dead librarian. Who's the entire point of why we're at the trading post, why we're at Split Valley Oasis. So yeah, that'll be sort of where we're gonna pick it up. I think next time. So let me make some notes for myself, just so we have that. So all right, what are we gonna do next time? Let's get a couple bullet points going. And I'm just gonna say we're gonna go ahead and move ahead one day because we're already like over halfway through the day. So we'll go ahead and knock that down, and we'll fix this up so everything will be ready to go for next time, and we'll kind of close it out and finish things off. Oh, excuse me. All right. It's gonna be a cool day. Cold, gusting, overcast, and foggy. All right, we need to talk to Omer. So first things first, we need to finally need to talk to Omer. And so part of that's going to be now one of the problems is that we don't know if Omer's actually in the trading post. So we'll put that down here as see. Because we may have to go find Omer. I don't really want to do that, but that's the problem of playing by yourself and relying on the dice. Is kind of taking the chaos of the dice. So we'll probably have to do an oracle roll. Well, we could do an oracle roll right now, I guess. We could that'll be maybe our final roll. Do we know where the heck Omer is? Because we got to talk to Omer. Yeah, we do. We probably saw Omer still in there. He may have. He's not much of an adventuring type, so probably they took a few days out on the road, and then he was like, he probably packed it in. I don't think Omer has a lot of money either for his hireling, so I think that their sort of expedition probably fell apart after probably like 3 days, so they were probably the first ones to make it back. Okay, so he is back in there. Perfect. All right, so we don't need to find him. We know that he's here. Entreat him to come along to investigate corrupted armor. Harold. What happened with Harold? Entreat him to come along. Okay. So the next thing we're gonna do, we need to talk to Ott. And they definitely would have beat her back to town. Because we don't know the city's name, whatever city, XXX, to be filled in later. And then I think we're gonna prepare for our excursion. Now, because we're going to, let's look at the map real again. It kind of tells us what we're going to be doing next time. I mean, we're gonna prepare. We're going to do some overland travel. So what we do know is, let's go to the left here so you guys can see it. So we know that this guy, the city that we're going to is not close. And if we were going to simulate travel the way we were looking for the water myrmidon and then coming back from water myrmidon, doing that over that amount of space would take forever. It would take us forever. So what we'll do is we'll do the overland travel section, which is a different type of way to simulate travel, and it's just for travel in which we're following roads. Because probably what we're going to do here, and actually we'll put this down on here. Let's put that down here. Actually, I think this is a sub goal of this because we're going there regardless of what Ott says, basically. And let's see, we're at a major trading hub, so I think we can try to pick up work as maybe caravan guards. So we're going to travel with a trade caravan. There's probably a trade caravan that's going to the city. I think that's this major trading hub. That's the closest big city that we know of, at least right now. So I'm going to guess that there's probably a major trade route that goes between these two. A major leg of whatever the larger sort of trade route is that they're going to go. So I think that it'd be pretty easy to latch ourselves onto a trade caravan and get there. It's that way, because traveling alone is incredibly dangerous. I mean, Lia just proved that. She left Gimble's camp and immediately got bit by a snake. It's like Oregon Trail, right? Traveling out here. Could get typhoid. Who knows? Get cholera, dysentery. Get stung by a scorpion and the foot swell up and not be able to move, and all sorts of bad things can happen. It's dangerous to go alone, like they say in the original Legend of Zelda, right? When you get the sword, it's dangerous to go alone. Take this. You need to bring some allies with you. So that's what we're definitely gonna do next time. And I think we could even an extra little sub goal here. Okay. Because look, the thing is that Lia knows a lot about that city because she lived in it for many years. Ott is literally a hired guide. It's what she does. So if Ott comes with him and she goes with him, and maybe Omer comes with them, Omer's not going to bring a lot to that situation, I don't think. But Lia would potentially, as a magic user, that could do some flashing, keep some people off of you. And obviously, Ott's a fantastic guide. Problem is that Ott's also a monstrous race, and people aren't super cool about that. They're okay with it, but they're not. They're definitely weirdly guarded about it. So, but it would be nice to get paid for travel, right? If you can get paid to do the thing you were going to do for free, that's always nice, right? Travel on somebody else's dime. So yeah, I think that's it, and I'm going to go ahead and we'll hop out of this, and we'll get over to here, because this is a really good place for us to stop. We know what we're going to do next time, which is a chief thing that I try to do when I DM, whether that's for myself, like right now, or DM for a group, which is a lot of things. There's a problem with a lot of like Dungeon Master training advice and things like that. That a lot of things, whether that's books or people, that a very core thing that will help you become a better Dungeon Master or Game Master for whatever sort of tabletop RPG you're running is that you should end the session knowing what you need to prep for the next session. So the idea is that you want to end a session with your friends, with the group, where they make a planned decision that we are going to do this next time. Because if you don't do that, what ends up happening is being like, I don't know what to prep because I don't know what they're going to do, or they're going to change their mind because they talked about like 4 different things that they were thinking about doing. Like, they need to make a decision at the end. Force them to make a decision so that way you know what to prep. Instead of, kind of dividing your prep into quarters between like 4 different potential things. You can be like, they're going to do this one thing, so I'm going to prep for that one thing, and then I can put all my emphasis on making it as good a thing as possible. So that's the same thing we want to do here. Is that I don't want to sit down next Sunday and be like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Like I want to have these sort of like ironed out steps. Like this is what we're gonna do next time, just so we have it. And so next time we're gonna do overland travel, which is different than sort of like the hex crawl thing that we were doing this session. Last session, kind of as we were searching for things. That's specifically meant for like local area trying to find stuff. But we're traveling some distance. We're going to be traveling across a very established path, so we don't need to worry about finding things. So instead, we're going to do our overland travel section, which is going to give us some different nodes, which are basically different events that are going to happen along the road as we go. That's really the only difference. So that should next time should really, unless we spend a ton of time talking, I think we should probably get to the city next time, which will be really great. Let's see. Is there anything else that let me check my notes. Other things that we need to talk about before we jump out. A little bit longer than the stream than I wanted to, but it took us a little bit longer to figure out how she was going to get back to. Since we lost the boats, I wasn't expecting us to lose the boats. That was the main thing. Losing the boats made things a little bit more difficult, especially for Lia just trying to get back to Akari's plantation. But we've done that. We've done everything. We're set up. We're good. Let me just do, I guess, our stream goal. Obviously, we're trying to get more followers. So if you like this content, hopefully you do. I'm enjoying it. Go ahead and drop a follow in. And then all the other stuff is sort of down at the bottom. We have the website, redragathene.com, where I do a bunch of blog posts. I just put up a blog post yesterday. We just did hex mapping example that kind of uses some of the stuff we've been using here as part of our larger sort of world building section we've been working on. And it talks about sort of making key points of interest, and I show what that would look like, and I did it and it took me a while, but I got 120 sort of keyed locations at it, and kind of gives me the ability, because of the way that I sort of set up sort of the nested hexes, it gives me the ability, if I wanted to as a DM in that world, to be able to run probably, dozens of, feel comfortable saying that, dozens of campaigns in this one region of the world map that are completely different. They have completely different angles, deal with completely different things. And how you create that, because once you create that, right, I could run games specifically in that one little area of the world. I mean, I shouldn't say little area, it's hundreds of miles, but in this one area of the world, small relative to the rest of the world, and never have to do the same thing twice, basically. So a little work that goes a long ways as far as giving you the ability to run games, which is one of the things that we prep for, and one of the things I focus on the blog. I also have pay what you want titles on DriveThruRPG. If you just look up Red Ragged Fiend on DriveThruRPG, you'll find the titles. I have another one that I'm still cooking on that hopefully I'll be able to get up whenever I have some free time. Obviously, if you want to catch up with this session and everything that Lia has gotten up to this point, as well as how we built this little beginner section of the world and put the characters together, you can find all that stuff on YouTube, which is at Red Ragged Fiend, same thing. And you can follow it there. We've got a few hours of content. You can get caught up with everything before next week. Other than that, we will probably stream on Thursday, since I won't have a game on Thursday. We'll see. That's still not 100%, so the best way to find out whether I'm going to stream or not is by following on Twitch and or following on Twitter to get those notifications when I'm going to go live. But that's it for me. I mean, I hope you guys had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. And we will definitely pick this up next time, and we'll find out who's going to come with Lia. Right, Lia's going to the city to do this research. It's just going to depend on who's going to come with her. If Odd and Omer are also going to come with her, or if she's going to have to kind of travel with a trade caravan by herself. Maybe she'll meet some new interesting strangers. Could always happen. The only way you'll find out that is by tuning in with me next time. But thanks for coming along, and I'll see you guys next time.